Welcome once again to Mayra Expert Talk, where we bring you experts from the industry across the globe to share their thoughts and insights on industry, on trends in the job market, and career plans and thoughts on how you need to plan your career moves. Today, in our Mayra Expert Talk, we are joined by Mr. Sonam Sahai, who will be discussing with us on mentoring for post-retirement careers. We have been talking to Mr. Sahai for a very long time, and he's been on our panel guiding many of our clients. Apart from that, he himself has mentored many executives, mid-career professionals to plan their career trajectories. A brief introduction on Mr. Sai. With over 30 years of leadership experience in the financial services sector, Mr. Sonam Sai has successfully driven large-scale transformation programs balancing customer experience with commercial objectives. Formerly Director of Operations and Transformation at RAG Bank and a senior leader at Mashreq, Dubai, he has led bank-wide initiatives in digital transformation, operations excellence, and organizational restructuring during periods of growth and consolidation. Mr. Sai's expertise spans banking operations, digital journey design, program management, and outsourcing strategies, with a proven ability to integrate people, processes, and technology. He has established program management offices, implemented operational controls, and driven efficiency across front, mid, and back office operations. Recognized as a people centric leader, he has formally mentored diverse professionals and is a regular speaker at COO forums and industry seminars on digital transformation and operations methodologies. Welcome, Mr. Sai, to our show today. We are really looking forward to the conversation and learning a lot about you because at this point of time, we are working extensively with senior citizens, people who've moved out of corporate lives and are nearing 60 or have crossed 60 years of age and beyond, planning their second innings. In fact, last couple of months, we have been focusing on this segment for a very long time and have generated a lot of interest. So we thought this is the best topic, and you've had a lot of experience in this space. So over to you briefly, Mr. Sai, before I shoot out questions to you. A quick, if at your end.
Thank you, Divya. Thank you for having me here. It's a pleasure, and I look forward to this session. So I think the topic that you picked up is extremely topical for people who are approaching this stage of life and stage of the career. And the fact of the matter is that all of us, irrespective of where we've been in a career, will get to that point sometime or the other. The wonders of modern medicine, the wonders of healthy lifestyles, make sure that we, at that stage of life where the corporate world decides to retire you, are still ready to do some more work, are full of energy, and therefore that planning is extremely important to make sure that you bridge that gap when you get there. So handing over back to you, and you can ask me the question that you want, and we can take it from there.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Absolutely. I think this is something which we all need to ponder on, and the sooner the better, I believe. So my first question is really, and we have discussed this earlier also, and it would be very interesting for our viewers to hear from you. What are the different phases of mentoring in a professional career? Because, while we're talking about senior citizens and people who are at senior levels, but across the journey throughout our professional life, there are different situations. So what according to you are the different phases of mentoring?
Very, very good question, Divya, and very important actually, because that subsumes into the entire discussion that we're going to have. I think, while you can divide it into many bits and pieces, in essence, there are three stages that you need mentoring to be done at. The first is when youngsters come into the workplace straight out of out of an academic institution. The pressures of an academic institution are very, very different from a workplace, and they are often not ready to face the way of working that will come their way, good or bad. It's just a different approach to life, and I think a bit of handholding at that time can really go a long way in positioning them for the future career that they have ahead of themselves. The approach at that time has to be more about telling the person about what to expect rather than, because they don't have the experience that a senior person has. So the approach is somewhat different. Once that happens, then they go in about 8, 10 years into their career, and they've done well for themselves, and then they start getting into either people management or slightly more senior roles of team leaders, and depending on the kind of role that they're doing, the need for that individual changes from only doing, now they have to get done. And that approach also requires a mindset change and an approach change. Help at that time from somebody experienced who's been through that journey, who's able to articulate for them what to expect and how to deal with that situation really helps. Otherwise, it takes them much longer, and sometimes they lose their way around that point. And let them go forward another decade or so when they start getting into senior leadership positions. And now it's about doing strategy. It's about looking ahead. It's not about doing at all. It's all about getting done. Again, a massive change in approach, and help at this time is extremely important. Uh, and I will now dovetail this into what we are likely to discuss as we go forward, is that how do these three position you to become a better person at dealing with a second career post your first career is done. So, how do you prepare yourself for that? And that preparation actually starts very early, and it goes through these three steps that we just talked about.
Right, right. And, specifically because in the earlier years, as you mentioned, straight out of college, 90% of the time, they're looking for jobs. How do I position myself? What are the skills that I need to talk about? Moving to mid-management, as you rightly said, that it's about managing people. And the last stage is really more about strategic, literally leading the ship as the captain of the ship. So I think that really brings these phases very, interconnected, and we would like to talk more on that as well. In fact, it would be good for our readers to also go through your article on the stages of mentoring, because we do come across a lot of our clients who are in these different phases and they are a little lost what type of direction they would need. Okay, so Mr. Sahai, my next question is really again, aligned to it, as you mentioned, is what will be an effective mentoring plan for senior citizens who are planning to restart their careers?
It's a mindset change that's required first and foremost. Those who are entering an age where they know that the formal career is going to come to an end, they need to start planning as early as possible. And what do you mean by planning? Is that you be prepared that your corporate job could come to an end at any time. I know hopefully it's voluntary, but sometimes it could be involuntary, and that's the way the corporate world moves, and that's fine. One has to accept it. Nobody's Teflon coated. We have enough examples amongst the people we know who face both, who've been through it voluntarily or involuntarily, irrespective. The earlier you start planning, the better it is. What do you mean by planning? First and foremost, you have to position your mind into thinking that the formal way of working is no longer going to be true. Once you get to a particular age, late 50s, early 60s, the world out there may not want to employ you for different reasons, good or bad, right or wrong, doesn't matter. That's the reality of the world. We have to accept it. We want the world to be the way we want it to be, but we deal with it the way it is, right?
Hmm.
Uh, I was reading something the other day saying that corporates seem to think that people like this may not stay with you for long. They may be too expensive. Could be true, may not be true. So you need to figure out what is it that you want to do. It cannot be a repeat of stage one, which has been your career for 20, 25, 30 years maybe, right? It may be for a shorter duration. It could be as long as that. It could be piecemeal out of that. So you have to choose those areas of expertise or of interest. At this point in time, it's not only expertise alone. It's about also your area of interest. You may be very good at something, but you may have got bored with it and you don't want to do it anymore. So you have to choose a very good correlation between your area of expertise, because you will be valued out there in the market for what you can deliver. So you can't put your expertise behind. You have to take a juxtaposition between expertise and your want in terms of what you want to do further. You have to plan accordingly, and when you say plan, you have to understand how that industry works. You have to be ahead of the game. What has got you so far has been your learnings and your experience. What will take you further is to build on this platform and say how I'm ahead of the game. Let's take the buzzword today, AI.
Hmm.
In every industry, it's disrupting the way things work, right?
Yeah.
And therefore, you have to understand how that disruption is happening, how your experience so far will help you make people understand that this is how it works. And with that AI impact, how can you take it forward? This is just one example, right? You have to have your core strength. You have to have a storyline around it. And that storyline cannot be a figment of imagination. It has to be all fact based,
Hmm.
right? The next thing, which I think, are there any questions, Divya? Should I go forward?
No, no, please go forward because the next question is connected to this only. And, I'm going to reframe it back to you. So, yeah, please go
Sure.
ahead.
Okay. The next thing is that you need to do a certain sense of acceptance.
Hmm.
You are at a senior position, or, you know, age wise, position wise, it doesn't matter. But when you start afresh, it's literally like becoming an intern again,
Hmm.
right? So that mindset change is important. Circumstances change, people change, the approach uh, that you have so far had needs to change. It
Hmm.
cannot be more of the same, right? You need to knock maybe on 1,000 doors, but only one has to open.
Hmm.
So the point I'm trying to make is that be accepting of the new way of life that's going to come your way, and sometimes you need to course maneuver that course. Sometimes you have to go with the way it exists and understand the new lay of the land.
Hmm.
It's not difficult, but it all starts here.
Right.
It's not easy either, but again, it all starts here.
Hmm. Right. So, this kind of, more from a reflective point, it really kind of connects when you are starting, when you mentioned the first piece when you shared about the three phases of mentoring, where I think, and mentoring is heavy loaded on mind shift,
Yeah, correct.
which really starts early because I think those aspects are not being addressed because it's not whether you're young or you're older, but it's all starts in the mind where you are really open to a new challenge, a new phase. And if that's not been addressed right from the beginning, you become very rigid by the end of it. And that's what we are experiencing with very senior leaders, who have their way of doing things, and they're not willing to change, or they're not willing to try out something new, which they're like, I don't do that.
Mhm.
Somebody junior can do that too. i'm not
Correct.
I'm not ready for that. So I think that mindset shift is something which is at the core of this. I think you very well articulated it.
Mhm.
My next question, and I would also like to take a bit of a tangent where I would want to probe a few minutes on mindset shift from you, Mr. Sahai, because that's an area which is a little sensitive also. When we're dealing with senior leaders, often we cannot tell them that you need to undertake that shift. Anyway, so over to my next question, which is, can you share the top three focus areas for anyone who is planning a professional pursuit after 60 years of age?
Okay. So, good question. The first and foremost, I've said this a number of times in this conversation already. I'm going to say it again, is your mindset change,
Hmm.
right? It's not easy. It is something that will hit you. You need to let your ego go. All of us as individuals have some sense of ego. If it's not ego, it's the rigidity that you've just mentioned. If it's not that, you have come to this point because you've done some things well, right? In a particular manner. That's why you've gone up the career ladder. Now comes the time to divest it, right? It's not easy. It's like letting go of your favorite armchair, of a house that you lived in for so many years. It's difficult. But without that change, nothing can happen. However successful you've been. I've got examples over here of people who have led organizations, and post 60, they are now busier than they were. But even they have had to change the approach that they've taken so far.
Hmm.
Right? It cannot be more directive. It has to be more collaborative. So that mindset change has to happen. right? The second is your planning. Extremely important. How do you plan? You plan, like I said earlier, by figuring out what are the areas that I want to work in. And there has to be a plan B, plan C, maybe a plan D also, because the first may not work, in which case you go to the second. And when the second is working, the first may come up again.
Yeah.
When I stopped working 2 or 3 years back in my formal banking career, and I had to go through this, I had three things in my mind, and I'll talk through, my own experience. I wanted to work with an IT company because I thought I'd worked at the crossroads of people, processes, and technology, and I had a lot to add to an IT company in terms of what they could do in banks. The second, I want to work with an outsourcing company because I'd done work with outsourcing companies and I realized the value that they can bring. And third, I wanted to get board positions in different finance-related companies. And it's taken me 3 years, but two of them are fulfilled, and hopefully a third also I will get to sooner than later.
Hmm.
So you have to plan, and you have to then stay the course, persistently,
Hmm.
right? And the third is a little different from these two, which are to do with career, because now comes the time when you have to look at yourself holistically. You've been on the treadmill for 25, 30, 35 years, depending on, when you started working and you're getting to the age of 60. Now comes the time when you look at your world in a more 360-degree view.
Hmm.
One thing which I did for myself, I made 5-year plans. At the age of 60, this is what I want to do. 65, this is what I want to do. I could have made the plan in any which way, but
Hmm.
I divided it along 4 or 5 different verticals, vectors. I said, what do I want to do in terms of work? What do I want to do in terms of family? I've got
Yeah.
2 boys, I've got a grandchild, my wife and I, we like to travel. So that took me to the third one. What do I want to do in terms of leisure? What do I do in terms of learning? Very important. If you don't learn, you'll be an old man who's left behind. I don't want to be
Hmm.
that.
Hmm.
And last but not least, what do I want to do in terms of health?
Yeah.
So once I did it along these vectors, then I had a fair idea in terms of, and it's more indicative. And also a little aspirational. So it sets you a bit of a stretch target and it gives you a roadmap in terms of how you want to travel that course.
Yeah.
So these three things I think have been most important for me and pivotal in terms of my approach to the second career.
Right. Right. Mr. Sai, when we are talking about mentoring per se, coming back to mentoring, uh, as a mentor, and you have, as I mentioned in the introduction, you have mentored many people in your career. Can you share some highlights on your mentoring approach, especially with senior leaders, and keeping the context of the conversation we are having right now?
Sure. You know, rigidity is an issue.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes people don't understand their own value or their own ecosystem. And as a mentor for that senior person, you just have to open those uh, windows of thought. So I'll give you an example of something that happened only yesterday. A person older than me is now looking for, after 3 years break, wanting to get back to work. And he has a very important meeting this Friday. And he's still talking about taking his CV there and talking to people and, saying, this is what I'll do. And I had to hold him back. I said, no, you're going to meet another person who's around your age bracket. You've done very well in your career, so has that other person. What you need to do is first establish that one-to-one connect. Maybe your CV doesn't even come out. Okay. If it has to come out, bring it out. He
Hmm.
asked me, should I tell him why I didn't work for 3 years? I said, yeah, tell him. There's nothing to hide.
Hmm.
You don't have to give all details, but you don't have to lie.
Hmm.
So for people at this age, it's about, again, coming back to what repeatedly I've been saying about looking at things differently. Sometimes also they need to be told that the experience you've had in a industry actually prepares you for something else too.
Yeah.
I have dealt with, like I said, my expertise is in people, process, technology, and how they interact with each other. But I have had the good fortune of working across organizations at, looking at different aspects of how organizations work. And therefore, I'm very comfortable stepping out of my banking domain, out of the finance domain, and talking to I was doing a startup work with a petrochemical company,
Hmm.
because it's about having that belief in yourself and understanding that at the end of the day, you may not understand the subject matter expertise, but that alone does not run a company. That alone does not run an organization. Your ability to join the dots otherwise really helps somebody else. If nothing else, it's about how do you approach a senior person? How do you make sure you talk the right from the right page of the hymn book to the right person?
Hmm.
So, there are no silver bullets. It's at the end of the day about expanding your mind and opening the windows of that thought to be able to deal with a situation through your prior experience.
Right, right. I think one of the key, areas that you have mentioned, which I think are very critical, especially at senior leadership, senior levels, as you're moving out into and moving towards, I wouldn't say retirement also, but you've got out of active work life and planning a different scenario for yourself is clearly number one. And I think it'll be helpful for our viewers to make a note of this is the mindset shift that, hey, you know what? I'm open to any opportunity that lets me learn and grow and keeps me relevant, because relevance is equally important, and you're relevant only when you're learning. As you said, Mr. Sai, learning is a very important area. And when you're learning, you're growing and you're relevant, and people will therefore keep checking on you. The second point, and I'm just trying to recap, is really the connections, the network. And I would want more views from you on this. Is the network often is in the cold storage for a lot of senior folks? They're like, I've not spoken to this person last 10, 15 years. How do I reconnect? So that, again, while I know it's a mindset thing that, hey, I can pick up the phone and talk to that person, but how do we do that? How do we connect? So a lot of people are dealing with that difficulty also. How do I go back to my connections? And the third piece is, of course, the experience and expertise that you come with is not necessarily always required in the industry where you came from, but it's probably relevant somewhere else.
Right.
Have you made an effort to check that there are probably 100 more sectors and industries where there is a need for you? So you may be in exodus, in your industry from where you're coming, but you may be in scarcity in another industry.
Yes.
So are you looking beyond the lenses you're wearing? So I think those are some of the mindset shifts that one needs to undertake and reflect upon. But Mr. Sai, before we close, and I'm keeping check on time here, and of course questions would be coming up from our audience also, and we will be answering a lot of questions parallelly, and we'll put you to Mr. Sai as well independently, so you can take the questions with him. Is really I want to check more from you is how do we look at the aspect of reconnecting? You know, that's a cold storage area for many of us, irrespective of where we are on the age bracket also, by the way.
That's true. That's completely true. I've been through it myself. It's a very relevant point, Divya. There's only one way of doing it. Just do it. I mean,
Mm,
just simply do it. There's nothing going to hold you back. It's it's going to be for certain. Like I said, people change.
yeah.
2 out of 10, 3 out of 10, 5 out of 10 may not even respond to you or may not give you the response you want. Doesn't matter. It's okay. Don't take it on yourself. It's not a reflection on you. It's a
Mm,
reflection of the person who hasn't answered. And if you have been remiss in terms of not staying in touch, you can start by saying that. There's no harm stating it, right? Saying that, I should have stayed in touch. I didn't. Apologies for that. And I'm now reaching out for help. You know, if somebody had done that to me, I may or may not have responded. I'm hoping you do. Just
mm,
say it the way you see it. And that actually takes away your diffidence and somebody else's approach. I've written to people like that myself, and some of them have not even bothered to respond. And I understand it. I respect it. But
mm,
others have said, no, it doesn't matter. I didn't stay in touch with you either. Right?
mm,
So I think that's very important. Some people do it very, very, in a very focused manner. Some people do it naturally. It doesn't matter how you do it. You just need to do it, right? The other thing, very should I say, that worked coincidentally for me is that I always, while people are very good at upward management, right? Uh, I was never great at it, but I was okay with it. I mean, my bosses valued what I did. That's why I had a decent career. But I was also very good at, because I like to mentor people, good with people who worked with me. And
Hmm.
as you get out of your formal job, those people start coming into areas of influence.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Now they value what you did with them when you were working.
Hmm.
I'll leave it at that. So think about it.
Yeah, right. And that's an area which we don't ever think much about,
Correct.
and again, because
Think
I'm
about
always
it.
in a position of authority, so doesn't matter. True. I think that's a very, very relevant point.
Hmm.
Mr. Sai, I think we would need to wrap up today's talk, but it was really very, very thought-provoking. Some of the very critical points you shared with us, especially on mindset shift, on connections, on looking at your experience, expertise, and passion, planning much, much earlier, learning, relationships, family, your health. And I often, at Mayra, we say health is like a table, on top of which your work, life, and other experiences are, standing. So if the health starts shaking up, literally everything will fall apart.
Correct.
So that's a fundamental piece from at our end also that we focus on. And I would like to conclude today's talk by sharing with our audience that, wherever you are on your career journey, you need to reflect on how you would want the next couple of years or next decade to roll out, because life can be long and it can be full of curveballs coming your way. So you need to have some planning, whether it's a sure short plan or not, but to have it always at the back of your mind. And if you are wishing to connect with us to know more about our mentoring program and how we could mentor you and guide you and support you in your career trajectory, whether you're looking for a job or you're looking at a change in the industry, region, geography, you're looking at growing within the current organization, how do you deal with certain leadership roles suddenly that come your way? Please connect with us on connect@myra.pro. All our handles are there on social media as well as LinkedIn. And with special mention for Mr. Sonam Sahai, who is an expert at mentoring mid to senior leaders, especially in the tech financial services space, being the industry domain, but across industries as well. And Mr. Sai, we've also spoken about your work with professionals and some of the ladies also. I wouldn't say ladies per se, but a lot of us who do take break because of personal responsibilities. He also mentors them to come back to work and how they can plan some of their professional pursuits. So, Mr. Sai, thank you so much. Any last thoughts that you would like to share with our audience?
Thank you, Divya. Thank you for that. Just a couple of points before I conclude also. Uh, what's helped me, and I think people should also be aware, that whenever you are going through a situation, always create a narrative around that. That narrative has to be a mix of what you want to do, what you are, and where you want to go. It helps you clarify your thoughts and it helps people understand what you're trying to say. That's the first point I want to make in conclusion. And another small point is that post your primary career, in your second career, it could be pieces of small things that you do. What you need to create is that one anchor and build around it. And the anchor could be anything. For some people, it is a 2 hour a week coaching that they do. For some people, it's a game of tennis that they play. Uh, for it could be anything. And then you build around that, right? And that again goes back to what I said earlier. Change your mindset and you'll be a happy person.
Right, right.
Thank you,
No, I
Divya.
think that's what it is. It's the holistic approach you need to have towards life. Life has many, many, parameters to it, and we need to deal with everything with confidence and self-assurance. So
Yes.
thank you, Mr. Sai, so much for
Thank
coming on
you.
our talk today. And we would be delighted to hear more from you in our next episodes. And more than that, we would also be sharing with our audience on some of the work that Mr. Sahai has produced on mentoring professionals as well as post-retirement plans. So we will be sharing that on our page, and more on Sonam Sai, you can check our website and of course on his LinkedIn profile. Thank you, Mr. Sai, for your time. It was a pleasure hosting you today.
Thank you, Divya. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much.